There's a hidden facility just off Highway 42 in Arkansas. You won't find it on Google Maps. They don't take walk-ins. Only deliveries. Vehicles dragged in by nameless tow trucks, usually at night. I'm the intake officer, and I have 7 rules taped to the wall of my booth. Break even 1. You don't leave, and neither does your soul. I didn't even want the damn job. Flat River Service Center wasn't a place people applied to. It was the kind of job that showed up after everything else in your life had already fallen apart. Divorce? Check. Repoed truck? Check. Drinking too much and sleeping in the back of a Walmart parking lot? Triple check. So when a man in a gray suit slid a job flyer under my motel door, a job I never applied for, I should have known something was wrong. But the envelope had $400 in cash and a single line written in block letters. Show up by 10:47 p.m. or lose the offer. The drive out to Flat River took me through winding Arkansas backroads that seemed to move the longer I stared at them. The GPS cut out after mile marker 23, and the air turned too still, like even the wind didn't want to be here, that I reached the service center at 10:46 p.m. 1 minute to spare. A rusted chain-link gate creaked open by itself as I pulled up. Beyond, it stood a single square building with flickering overhead lights and 5 long garage bays, each closed like a mouth holding back a scream. Standing in front of the intake office was a tall, skeletal man in a grease-stained jumpsuit. His name, Patch, just said, Walt. No smile. No hello, just a clipboard. You're late, he said, even though I wasn't. Before I could protest, he shoved the clipboard into my chest. Attached was a single sheet of yellowed paper. Warning: Flat River Service Center. Vehicle intake rules. Warning: you will follow these instructions exactly. If you break a rule, no one will come to save you. Never look inside the vehicles. Ever. Never speak to the drivers. They will try. They are not who you think. Only open Bay 3 on odd-numbered nights. Bay 3 is not for daytime use. At 3:13 a.m., turn off all lights for exactly 90 seconds. If a car arrives with the radio on, do not touch the dial. If a second vehicle arrives before the first one leaves, hide. Walt is not human after 4:44 a.m. Do not look at him. Do not answer him. I snorted. This some kind of joke? Walt didn't answer. He just opened the intake booth, handed me a key, and pointed at the clock. 10:59 p.m. My shift began in 1 minute. New moon the first night, the first car rolled in at exactly 11:06 p.m. A matte black SUV, dirt-streaked and humming, with low mechanical growls. Its windows were completely blacked out. As I stepped forward to record the VIN and scan the barcode on its bumper, I caught a glimpse of the driver's silhouette inside. It was smiling. Too wide. Too still. I remembered rule number 1. Never look inside the vehicles. I yanked my eyes away and pressed the scan gun to the bumper. The green light beeped. The bay lights flickered. The SUV door opened slightly, but no one got out. Instead, the entire vehicle just slid itself into Bay 1 without any engine sound. I didn't see any tires turning. For the next hour, nothing came. Just silence. A silence so deep that even the buzzing of the lights sounded like screaming after a while. I paced. I reread the rules. I tried not to stare at Bay 3, which looked like it was breathing slightly. 3:13 a.m. I remembered rule #fork. I hesitated. Then I reached for the switch and turned every light off. 3 o'clock, 3:13 a.m. The lights out. Ritual pitch blackness swallowed the entire facility, and within 5 seconds, the voices started. They whispered from every direction. Male, female, young, old. Hundreds of them. No footsteps. No breathing. Just words. He saw me. Don't open Bay 3. You look just like him. Where's your mother, Jacob? My name isn't Jacob. I gripped the booth counter so hard my knuckles cracked. Something touched the back of my neck, cold and wet like an old dog's nose. I couldn't move. I couldn't even breathe. All I could do was wait for the 90 seconds to pass. Exactly 3 hours, 14 minutes and 30 seconds. I flipped the lights back on. Everything was normal again, except the yellow sheet of paper with the rules was gone. In its place was a Polaroid photo, fresh, glossy, and still warm. It showed me, sleeping in my motel bed. Only, in the corner of the frame, Walt was sitting beside me, staring at the camera. Skull and Crossbones. The second delivery, 4:12 a.m. Another vehicle arrived. This time, A rusted-out tow truck pulling a 1970s hearse covered in chains. Its back door was vibrating, like something inside was trying to get out. The tow truck driver wore a gas mask and never looked at me. He held up a clipboard. The page was completely blank, but something compelled me to sign it anyway. As soon as I did, he nodded once and backed out the gate. Then the hearse started moving on its own. Its headlights weren't on. They were eyes, and they watched me as it backed into Bay 3, even though it wasn't an odd-numbered night. I broke. Rule #3. Suddenly, the air grew cold. A high-pitched hum echoed from inside Bay 3, followed by the sound of metal tearing, like bones snapping under pressure. Then silence. The bay doors slammed shut without warning, and every light in the building went out. Not just flickered, died. And then came the scream. It was long, deep, inhuman. Not from inside the building, but from inside my own chest that I don't remember blacking out. But I woke up hours later in my booth chair, a single word scratched into my forearm with a scalpel. Obey. Walt was sitting outside the booth, whittling something out of bone. He didn't speak. He just nodded and tossed something into the garbage can beside me. It was a human ear. Previously on Chapter 1, I accepted a mysterious job as the vehicle intake officer at Flat River Service Center in Arkansas, a cursed place governed by 7 twisted rules. I already broke rule number 3 by opening Bay 3 on an even night and woke up with the word obey carved into my flesh. But tonight, 2 vehicles are approaching. Rule number 6 is about to be broken, and something ancient is waiting just beneath the concrete. Waxing crescent moon, 11:59 p.m. Second night begins. It started with the wind, but it wasn't natural wind. It whistled through the pipes like someone screaming through a straw. Every drain gurgled. Every vent moaned. Even my bones felt like tuning forks. I lit a cigarette with shaky hands and glanced at the analog clock above the intake booth window. 11:59 p.m. that I hadn't seen Walt in over 19 hours. He just vanished after dropping that ear in the garbage. I didn't ask whose it was. I didn't ask why it was still warm. But tonight felt different. The kind of different you feel in your gut, like a pressure building behind your eyes. That's when I heard it. Point 2 engines, point 1 rumbling low, guttural, like a lion gargling motor oil. The other was buzzing, like thousands of mechanical flies chewing glass, and they were coming from opposite directions. Police car light, 12:01 a.m. Violation of rule #6. I ran to the console. Rule number 6. If a second vehicle arrives before the first one leaves, hide. But where the hell do you hide in a place that doesn't let you leave? The buzzing vehicle was already turning into the lot. It was a blood-red limousine, stretched absurdly long, like a funhouse mirror version of a funeral car. Its windows were fogged over. The windshield was cracked from the inside. The other vehicle hadn't even entered yet, just headlights in the distance, slicing through the tree line like blades. I dove under the intake desk, holding my breath, and that's when I noticed. The floor was breathing. The tiles beneath me rose and fell like lungs. Something alive was beneath this entire building, shifting, coiling, waiting. From outside the booth, I heard the screech of brakes. Then silence, then a knock. Not on the door, not on the window, but inside the booth. Something knocked from beneath the floor. Whole crawl space to nowhere. I stumbled back and nearly screamed when I saw the trapdoor beneath the intake desk. It wasn't there last night. It hadn't been there during the day. It was covered in tiny scratch marks, like fingernails had clawed at it from the other side. That I should have run. But there was no exit. The rules didn't say anything about this. I opened it. The metal hatch hissed, and a ladder dropped into blackness that smelled like burnt milk and wet pennies. I descended. The sound of the 2 cars entering simultaneously echoed through the service yard. They were inside, and I was now below them. The crawl space wasn't a tunnel. It was a circular chamber made entirely of rusted metal and pulsing flesh. Yes, flesh. The walls were lined with organic tubes, throbbing with something that sounded like a heartbeat. In the center sat a single metal chair, and beside it, a mirror. I approached it. To my reflection blinked before I did. Then it smiled. "You're too late," it whispered. "You broke rule number 6. Now only one of them leaves." Drop of blood above ground. The feeding begins. The chamber began shaking. Screams erupted from the surface. One of the cars was feeding. I could hear it. The sound of metal ripping flesh, of teeth grinding through glass. Tires screeched. Something slammed into a bay wall with a roar. And then, silence. When I climbed back up, only one car remained. The red limo was gone. In its place was a single shoe, covered in blood, and sitting atop the booth desk. My rules sheet had changed. It now read, if two vehicles arrive, choose which one leaves, or the place will choose you. There was a drop of blood on the paper. It was fresh. Telephone. The intercom call, 3:13 a.m. I made it to 3:13 again. I turned off the lights. This time, the whispers were angrier. They didn't surround me. They were inside my ears. You saw it, feed. It wants more now. Choose next time. Don't hesitate. And then the intercom crackled on by itself. A voice spoke. Not Walt's. It was metallic, robotic, yet somehow wet. You have been seen, intake officer. You are now bound. Your name is on the engine bone. I didn't understand. I still don't. But when the lights came back on, my phone buzzed. No number. Just a single text. Don't check your motel room. It's not yours anymore. What I saw in Bay 3 the next night. Bay 3 was open. I didn't open it. Inside was a mirror world of the service center, an inverted version. Rusted, rotten, and lit by burning tires hung from meat hooks. My reflection was inside it, scrubbing blood off the floors with my teeth. I closed the bay door, but the sound didn't stop. From that moment, I began seeing shadows in the daytime. On my drive home, in the bathroom mirror, even in puddles. My reflection sometimes walks away from me, and Walt has stopped blinking. Direct hit. The new rule. Walt returned on the fourth night. This time, he looked worse, like his skin was stretching too tight, and something underneath was pulsing. He tossed me a new paper. No words, just one image, me. But in the picture, I was wearing his uniform. His name tag. Walt, he whispered. Only one of us makes it past Rule 7. Then walked away, leaving bloody footprints that vanished as they dried. I violated Rule number 6 when two vehicles arrived at once. One car vanished. The other was fed upon. I've started hearing voices from the pipes, seeing my own reflection act without me. And now Walt gave me a photo of myself wearing his name tag. Only one of us survives Rule number 7. And Bay 3? It never really closed. Full Moon Night 5. The black envelope. It was waiting for me when I returned, a sealed black envelope, resting perfectly centered on the intake desk. No stamps. No sender. Just my name written in bone-white ink that bled through the paper like it was alive. I didn't want to open it. I didn't even want to breathe near it. But something inside the booth pulsed when I tried to turn away, like the walls were angry. I tore it open. Inside was a single card. Tonight, you must witness the cargo in Bay 3. Rules can be bent now. For you. Only once. Look, but don't blink. That phrase shouldn't have made sense. But somehow I knew. If I blinked, I'd be next. Counterclockwise arrows button. Bay 3 opens itself. The clock ticked to 1:01 a.m. The air smelled like scorched rubber and candle wax. The buzz of the fluorescent lights died instantly. Not flickered, surrendered. Then the grinding began. Bay 3's metal door groaned open inch by inch, scraping concrete. As if clawed open from the inside. It wasn't like last time. This time, it welcomed me, and I couldn't resist walking in. Inside Bay 3, the mirror room. I expected blood, chains, bones, even bodies. But what I found was worse. A mirror world of the garage. Every detail was identical, but rotting, corrupted, inverted. Signs hung backwards. The clocks ticked counterclockwise. The air wasn't just colder. It was hollow, like sound couldn't exist here. And standing inside that mirror world, me. But not me. This version's face was wrong, too smooth. Like someone had sculpted it from wax and forgotten the details. It smiled with no lips. And when it turned, its back wasn't a back. It was a steering wheel. I was looking at the driver. The thing inside the vehicles. It cocked its head. The wheels embedded in its spine began to spin. It started mouthing the rules backward. Nemo H ton SITLAW. Snoitseals Ecum Suem.6 Eller. I blinked, and that's when the mirror world shattered. Everything went black. Hold the pit beneath Bay 3. I woke up underground. I was inside the facility's foundation, not in a room, but in a pit made of engine parts and human bones. The walls were rib cages. The floor was pavement fused with teeth. In the center stood a small, pulsing heart, made from oil, metal, and something still alive. A voice spoke from everywhere at once. Intake officer. You've touched the void. You've seen the driver. Now choose. Walt dies, or you become him. Adult wrench. Who is Walt? Let me tell you about Walt that he's not a man. He never was. He's the position, the vessel, the human shell that guards the door between the vehicles and the world. The moment the first rule is broken, the next in line begins the transition. And I was already changing. My skin peeled without pain. My voice echoed, even when I whispered. My name. Tag. Turned to Walt. When I looked in the mirror, he never aged because he was replaced. Every time someone like me took a peek inside Bay 3, every time someone hesitated to hide, they fed the engine beneath this place. Biohazard. 3:13 a.m. The final. Lights out. It was the last 3:13 ritual. This time, the whispers weren't angry. They were welcoming. One more choice, intake officer. Your name or your memory? Become the next Walt, or let the driver in. I turned off the lights. The silence was beautiful. No screams, no pipes, no scratching, just acceptance. And when I turned the lights back on, Walt was gone. All that remained was his jumpsuit, neatly folded, and a mirror shard glowing with heat. I picked it up. My reflection was already wearing it. An arrow. The final rule. The rule sheet returned, but it was different now, burned around the edges, scrawled in red instead of black. And only one rule remained. Do not train a replacement. If they know the rules, they can't be fed to the machine. If they break the rules, they become part of it. I keep quiet now. I work alone. I take in vehicles. Some scream, some cry, some play songs from the future, but I never look inside. Never again. And every night at 4:44 a.m., I stand outside the booth, and I watch my reflection wave at me from inside Bay 3. I took a job as vehicle intake officer at Flat River Service Center, Arkansas, a cursed facility governed by 7 strange rules. I've broken several of them. I've looked inside Bay 3. I've spoken to drivers who don't bleed. I've watched reflections move when I stay still. And now, I'm becoming Walt. The final rule has changed. Do not train a replacement. Because Flat River doesn't want new people, it wants souls to chew. Milky Way Night 7. Something woke up. The sky wasn't black. It was purple, pulsing, like a bruise stretched across the heavens. No stars, no moon. Only clouds shaped like faces, mouths open in silent screams, hovering above Flat River as if watching their meal prep. I stepped into the booth, and I swear the walls exhaled. The floor buzzed like a living power line. Tonight felt different. Final. I knew something was going to happen. I just didn't know what part of me wouldn't survive it. Scroll. The final NFST at 11:09 p.m. The first item was delivered. Not a vehicle. A coffin, wrapped in plastic, chained to a rusted mail truck that had no driver. The chain dragged it into Bay 2, screeching across the cement, carving deep gouges into the floor like claw marks. A yellow envelope sat on the lid. I tore it open. Inside was a new manifest. Final manifest. Flat River Service Center. 1 coffin. Occupied. 1 child's bicycle. Still warm. 1 limousine from 1982. Black glass. Red velvet seats. Driver is dead. Vehicle is not. 1 soul. Yours. There was a signature at the bottom. It said Walt. But not an INK.in blood. Still wet. Door midnight. All bays opened themselves. This never happens. All 5 garage bays opened at once, like the place was stretching its mouth. Wind howled through the service yard like it had been trapped for years and was finally free. Inside each bay, a version of me. 1 with no skin. 1 in a coffin, banging to get out. 1 chained to a child's bicycle, crying motor oil. 1 driving a limo alone, speaking in reverse. And 1 smiling calmly, wearing Walt's uniform. That last one spoke. You're the last intake officer. The cycle ends here. Either you feed the machine or become it. I screamed. I ran, but the booth door wouldn't open. Timer clock, 3:13 a.m. The lights don't work for the first time in all 7 nights. The light switch failed. I flipped it again and again. Nothing. The booth stayed lit, but only in dim red glow, like a heartbeat struggling to keep rhythm. The speakers clicked on. I heard children laughing, then screaming, then the sound of an engine dying, over and over and over. Then Walt's voice, deep and wet. You're inside the engine now, boy. Everything here burns eventually. Police car light, 3:33 a.m. Rule violation cascade. All 7 rules were broken at once. One by one, I saw the rules shatter. I looked inside a vehicle. I spoke to a driver. He was me. Bay 3 opened on an even night. The lights refused to go off. The radio on a passing SUV screamed in tongues. I touched the dial. A second car arrived while the first one backed in. And worst of all, I looked Wald in the eyes. But it wasn't Wald anymore. It was the driver. Face to face with the driver. The driver was 7 feet tall, soaked in oil and tar, with headlights where eyes should be, and exhaust pipes in place of lungs. Its arms were made of seat belts and rebar, where its mouth should be was. A steering wheel, spinning slowly. It spoke by honking, choking, and repeating rule numbers in distorted tones. Rule 1. Rule 1. Never look inside. It reached out and touched my face, and I saw everything. Hammer and wrench. The origins of Flat River in a flash, like 1,000 photographs shoved into my skull. I saw 1946. A traveling mechanic builds an engine powered by human guilt. 1959. A man named Walt makes a deal to save his dying daughter. The price: become the gatekeeper. 1982. A black limo arrives, driven by something not born of this earth. It carries passengers that feed. 1999. The last intake officer tries to burn Bay 3. He becomes part of it instead. Now me. The final replacement. I was the fuel. My suffering, my regret, my curiosity, it all fed the engine. And it was hungry. Man standing the choice. Burn or obey. The driver whispered its final offer. You can leave, but someone must take your place. Train them. Let them see the rules. Feed the cycle. Or stay. Forever. Become the garage. The floor cracked beneath me. From the pit, I saw all the previous intake officers screaming, their mouths shaped like exhaust pipes, their fingers fused into wrenches and cables. And I felt myself drifting. My heart ticked like a turn signal. My breath came out in carbon monoxide. I was becoming the booth, the bay, the fuel line, the rule sheet. Fire the final act. Break even. But then I remembered the one rule they didn't want me to know. Do not train a replacement. So what if I didn't? What if I burned the rules? What if I let Flat River die starving? I screamed, grabbed the original rule sheet, and shoved it into the furnace bay behind the intake booth. The one they said to never open. The room shook. Metal screamed. The reflection of myself in every bay burst into flame. The driver howled, and Flat River collapsed. Sun epilogue. The last shift, I woke up in my motel room. No cuts, no burns, no jumpsuit, no Walt. Just me. And a note taped to the mirror, written in Sharpie, my own handwriting. You didn't obey? Good. But they're still out there. Never trust unmarked tow trucks. Never take a job without asking why you were chosen. And if you ever hear a knock from under the floor, run. I tossed the paper. I tried to live a normal life again. But some nights, when I drive past old service stations, I swear Bay 3 is still open, and something inside it is waiting for me to blink. Warning. Final summary before ending begins. After surviving 7 cursed nights as the vehicle intake officer at Flat River Service Center, I broke all 7 rules. I met the driver, a demonic entity that feeds off disobedience, curiosity, and memory. I resisted, refused to pass on the curse, and tried to destroy the rules. Now, Flat River is gone, but something underneath me is still breathing. This is my last testimony. Sunrise Day 8. The world is wrong now. I thought I won. I really did. The sky had turned blue again. Birds chirped outside the motel room window. I heard the ice machine in the hallway working for the first time in days. I even tasted coffee again. Real coffee. Hot, bitter, grounded in reality. But deep down, in a part of me that no longer sleeps, I knew something wasn't right. You don't just walk away from Flat River. That morning, I went to a nearby diner, just to feel normal. The waitress smiled. A real human smile. But when I asked for a receipt, she handed me a yellow paper with 7 rules. The same 7. I looked up. Her face was still smiling, but the skin was sliding off her cheeks. She whispered, "You didn't kill it. You just made it hungry." Construction. Flat River was never a place. I drove back to where the service center used to be. There was nothing there, just trees, dirt, no tire marks, no chain link fence, no concrete slabs. But the land was sinking, like a huge mouth had swallowed the building whole. The air buzzed. Crows circled above me like vultures on a lunch break. And buried in the earth, I saw it. The top of Bay 3. Half covered. In soil, still open. Still breathing smoke. My phone buzzed. No number. Just one new message. It's under every station. Every highway. Every waiting room. It doesn't need Flat River. Flat River was just its mouth. You were the meal. Video cassette they want you to talk. I went home. Burned everything. The clothes, the papers, even my own ID. But I still saw things in the mirror, glimpses of the other me. The one still inside Bay 3. Then the letters started. Mailed from random P.O. boxes in Nevada, Kentucky, Alberta, even from my own town. Each one said the same thing. You're the last one who saw it with open eyes. Tell the story. Make others afraid to take the job, or the engine finds another way to eat. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm telling you. Hole inside the pit. One last descent. I shouldn't have done it, but curiosity kills more than cats. I came back a week later. I brought a flashlight, a flare gun, a rosary, and 2 bullets. The ground above Bay 3 had sunken even deeper. A full crater now, pulsing with dark fumes and the faint sound of wheels spinning on bone. I tied a rope around a tree and climbed in. There were stairs made of steel, and the deeper I went, the more the air changed. Not just colder, but older, like breathing in memory. I found the heart of it. The engine, not a machine, but a god built from metal, trauma, and silence. It had mirrors for skin, wires for veins, and inside its chest, suspended in oil, was every intake officer who'd ever failed, screaming without mouths, still working, forever processing deliveries. And at the center, my reflection, still smiling, still holding the clipboard, still asking, "Is this your first shift?" Drop of blood, the offer, again. The driver stood beside me, hunched, dripping black sludge. It whispered the same damn deal. "We can make the pain stop. Just give us names. People willing to listen, willing to click, willing to believe. Tell them the story. Let them read it. Let them fear it. Let them imagine what the booths smell like. They don't even have to apply. They just have to consume." And I almost said yes. But then I remembered the faces I saw screaming from the engine's ribs, and I made my final decision. Fire. I lit the flare. It wasn't enough to escape. It wasn't enough to break the rules. You have to scorch the contract. So I lit the flare, shoved it into the core of the engine, past the reflections, through the screaming metal. The last thing I heard before the whole pit roared like an avalanche was my own voice, whispering, "Shift complete." I woke up 3 days later, in a hospital. They found me 20 miles from the crater, covered in oil and ash, holding a melted wrench fused to my palm. No memory. No ID. Just 2 words burned into the skin of my chest. Never again. Stop sign. If you're still reading this, good. It means you made it this far. It means you listened. That's the only defense you have now. Because Flat River isn't a real place anymore. It's everywhere. It's the rust in your basement pipes, the humming you hear under your car at night, the knock at your garage door when no one's there, the Craigslist ad for entry-level graveyard shift, no experience needed. Delete that ad. Burn it. If you hear a voice through your air vent saying, "Welcome to your first shift," run, because once you read the rules, you're already hired. Gear. The final rule: there is no quitting, only replacement. So unless you're ready to feed the engine, don't ever accept the job. And never open Bay 3. Because when it opens, you blink. And when you blink, it drives you home.